Mr. Speaker, sir, as highlighted that this particular bill seeks to repeal the existing law that's in place. The existing law is highly bureaucratic. It is quite cumbersome. As we've done with many other laws, Mr. Speaker, sir, for example, this bill with the removal of foreign investment certificate means that a lot of lawyers won't necessarily get to bill the fees, because a lot of lawyers and accounting firms actually used to charge investors large amounts of money simply to get a foreign investment certificate. And perhaps some of the people that Honorable Prasad is speaking about are the ones who are aggrieved by this. But let me also tell you, some of these law firm practitioners actually participated in the World Bank workshops that were held in the lead up to the formulation of this bill. I think the honourable members of the opposition need to understand that consultations with the public does not only begin when it goes to the committee. Many of these bills, Mr. Speaker, sir, even before the bill is formulated, we have consultations before that. A lot of this bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, whether it's to do with disaster, for example, we have the Japanese government working together with the NDMO, we have the World Bank, IFC working with us, we have international organizations, for example, to do with trademarks law. All of this actually has been carrying out for 2-3 years. Similarly, with this particular bill, the World Bank had various workshops that were held. Members of different organizations, including umbrella organizations, representatives of the umbrella organizations, all participated in the various consultations. TLTB, for example, participated. Honorable Randranu talked about landowner participation. A vast array of people actually participated, because that's one of the requirements of the World Bank. And the reason why the World Bank actually participated is because obviously we're working together with them to get them to help us to get rid of this old bureaucratic law. And I can point out many problems with the existing law at the moment. There are many people, even though they received or obtained, I should say, a foreign investment certificate, they still came into Fiji and actually got into areas of business which they were prohibited from. But because the law was lacking in its applicability, they could get away with it. There's no recourse to, for example, getting assets that were illegally obtained because they didn't have the permit in the first place. So this bill actually makes the laws a lot more simpler. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the minister unilaterally making decisions regarding the restricted areas. Mr. Speaker, sir, as highlighted in my introduction, the minister makes that list through the approval of Cabinet. He has to go, or she has to go to Cabinet to get the approval of Cabinet. It's the government of the day that decides on the policy in which areas there should be restriction. Now, there was a lot of contradictory type of comments being made. One Honorable Prasad talked about, well, people won't know what's happening. The regulations are there. They won't know. They won't be able to invest. It was kind of very perfunctory type of analysis that took place. It kind of sort of rubbished it all. But Mr. Speaker, sir, the point of the matter is this, is that laws are put in place, in particular now modern day investment laws are put in place. There has to be a particular level of national interest put into focus. I'll give you an example. Recently, the Australian federal government stopped investments or investment deals by various states and territories in Australia which they made with foreign entities. And they decided as a federal government it was in the interest of Australia for those deals not to go ahead because it affected national security. Artificial intelligence is critically important. 5G, which is not in Fiji as yet, is very important. Who do we use as a supplier? Will they have the capacity to eavesdrop in Parliament, your office, the Prime Minister's office, the Minister's office? All of those things need to be taken into consideration. For example, we've seen various countries in South Asia where various countries have come in and now have 99-year leases of critical port areas where the state has lost complete control of it. In Fiji's case, that is not the case. Because notwithstanding the fact that we made some divestments, we still have the laws to protect us. We also, Mr. Speaker, said did something clever, which is we'd never let the real estate pass on to this company in which you have foreign investors. The real estate still belongs to the Fijian people and the Fijian government, owned through Assets Fiji Limited. So these are the critical points that we need to understand, and I think the honourable members, I expected better contribution from them, a lot more sophisticated and nuanced type of analysis. Mr. Speaker, sir, the other point is that, as I said, the consultation started back in 2017. We have, as a case in point, the climate change bill. It's been going through consultations for the past 2 years. So by the time it comes to this Parliament, you would have had so many people, hundreds, if not thousands of people who have contributed online directly come and seen people in the ministry, have made formal submissions. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think Honourable Randondro talked about, a lot of conjecture, what will happen, the land will go away. None of that will happen. He's really into conjecture, Mr. Speaker, sir. And as I highlighted, they said bogus investors will be allowed. I can tell you the bogus investors. There was a bogus investor in Natandola. He was an undischarged bankrupt from Europe, and he's now in prison. There was a bogus investor in Momi. He is in prison in New Zealand. So how will this law actually stop that from happening? This law, in fact, has got higher accountability provisions. The previous law actually allowed those people to slip through the cracks. Does the Immigration Department have the capacity? Of course it has the capacity. Of course it's already invested in the technology. We now have, for example, the passport systems in Fiji is far more advanced. In fact, I was informed that the passport system that we have, in order to be able to catch up with the technology, the Australian authorities actually had to invest furthermore. And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we are not able to fully utilize the full potential of the passport system that we do have, Mr. Speaker, sir, but very soon we'll be doing so. Again, Mr. Speaker, sir, there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about outsourcing and privatization. FRA is not privatized. Privatized means that you sell everything to the private sector. FRA is not owned by a private company. Water Authority Fiji is not owned by a private company. Investment Fiji is not owned by a private company. Outsourcing makes a lot of sense. Outsourcing actually creates a lot of jobs. As we've highlighted previously, a lot of companies in Fiji, Mr. Speaker, sir, construction companies, road-making companies, there are far more companies making, local companies, Fijian companies that are making roads now, have newer technology now, have the knowledge, the information to do so. And very soon we'll be able to build at full capacity. But it creates jobs. When you have a civil servant or someone in a statutory organization, they get paid a salary. If they do 2 or 3 other things, they actually still get paid that salary. But if you outsource it, that money actually goes out to more companies and they actually employ more people. I gave a very simple example the other day. When we had these food ration packs, we outsourced it. For them to do the ration packs, Punjas actually had to hire over 100 people in Lautoka. Those 100 people had not been employed for a while. Suddenly they had jobs for 2 or 3 days. They got paid money for it. Mr. Speaker, sir, the other point that I also wanted to highlight was the issue about the rogue state, Honourable Tuishawa. We're not a rogue state. And we've explained in Parliament so many times that the EU's blacklisting is not just of Fiji, but many other countries, where the EU essentially saying that we as a country do not have the right to offer incentives to companies to entice them to come to Fiji. And our argument is that as a developing country, as a post-colonized state, that we need to play catch-up. If we, as a small economy, are able to say to somebody, please come to Fiji, invest in Fiji, create jobs, and we give you a 13-year tax-free holiday, go and invest in Vanuatu, we'll give you a 7-year holiday, you invest in biofuels, we'll give you a 7-year holiday, or ITCs 13 years. They don't want that. They said you must be a level playing field. But we are not starting from a level playing field. We are a colonized state. We just gained independence in 1970. They colonized people and they've been doing that for the past over 100 years. Their economies are far more advanced. We don't even have 1 million people. They have millions of people. We don't even have millions of people around the corner from us. So we need to be able to invest, entice people, and if for that particular reason, if we are going to be blacklisted, then so be it. So be it, and at the moment it has not affected our ability. We've made our case, we will fight our case. Mr. Speaker, sir, the other point, of course, is that the the Minister makes regulations. And again, those regulations are subject to policy directives by Cabinet. And once regulations are actually gazetted, once they get gazetted, any investor relying on those regulations obviously can depend on those regulations. Should there be any departure from the regulation that will adversely affect the investor who made the decision in the first place based on that regulation, obviously the investor has a right of recourse. And obviously the government will be at fault. So to come here and pontificate and say, well, there's no uncertainty for these investors is completely wrong. It's disingenuous. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think the other point is that, I think there's Honorable Prasad again went on about friends. Oh no, before I go, that's not that important. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, Chugoku, which is a Japanese company, and as we know the credibility of Japanese companies, Chugoku, together with JIBIC, which is Japanese Investment Bank, has, as we all know now, made a bid, successful bid, and have acquired 44% of EFL. They've paid around 440 million Fijian dollars for 44% of EFL. The Fijian government still owns 51% of EFL. 5% are held by Fijian citizens. Anybody that's watching now and has got an EFL account, domestic account, you can become a shareholder if you have not yet become. Mr. Speaker, sir, if the situation in Fiji was so bad, as the opposition tries to portray, in particular Honorable Prasad, Chugoku and JIBIC would not invest in Fiji. And we know the standards that Japanese companies follow. We know the environmental standards that Japanese companies follow. They would not have invested in Fiji. And they have invested in Fiji. And Mr. Speaker said that is something we need to be proud of. This is the first time, apart from Mana Island, where there's some Japanese interest in the tourism sector, this is the first time, Mr. Speaker, sir, that a large Japanese company has invested in Fiji. They are already excited about their prospects in being in Fiji. They're already recognizing the changes we are bringing about. The Japanese ambassador has spoken to us about new opportunities for Japanese investors in Fiji. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm sure everybody in this chamber would agree that if you want to get foreign investments like the Japanese, that's something that we want. So things are happening. Let's not make false representations of what is happening or not happening. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like everybody to please support this bill. I know the opposition is going to say we don't support it. But the reality of the matter is made a lot more simple. And I was going to comment on French, but I'm not. I'll take another opportunity to do that because it's quite actually superfluous to comment on things by Honorable Prasad. I know he's been caught out. Therefore, he keeps on going on about French. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.